decided to pursue a career in law because it gives me an opportunity to help people. When a client chooses us to represent them, they're entrusting us with a huge responsibility. It's our goal to exceed their expectations with our personalized service and to help them to achieve the best possible recovery to compensate them for their injuries.
That's where we come in. We come in and we solve that problem for them and really set them on the right track in order to try and get back to what their life was like before the accident happened.
Man, what are all these people out here watching us for? Hey, wait a minute. It's Sunday. It's the Big Boneyard, and thank everybody. Thank you so much for coming back and joining us again, just 7 days from the last time we did this thing. So again, welcome to the Big Boneyard. You got myself, Big Bone 1%er, Archbishop 1%er, as per always. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You know, you got to do it like that because we did say it was Archbishop, so we got to do that, right? That's part of it.
Yeah, what up, though? What up, though?
I'm telling you, I'm gonna learn how to say that properly. See, these ladies don't know this, but that's like some Detroit shit that I haven't learned how to do yet. But I'll get there. I'll get there. So I'll tell you what. So this week, this is a part 2 to what we were talking about last week, which is a very serious topic that bikers definitely need to know about. So many people got back with us. We got a lot of feedback on last week's show. It is still Human Trafficking Awareness Month, so we're going to do a part 2 to the show last week. We're just going to step it up a notch or two. But if we can begin with if we can begin with a prayer, but actually if we can begin with our disclaimer. Archbishop, you can help us with that, sir.
Well, our disclaimer is this is our opinions, and our opinions alone doesn't have anything to do with our respective clubs. This is all information that's been calculated and used, and we're not going back and forth with putting out anything dealing with clubs tonight. We're dealing with something real today. So, like I said, this is our opinions based on information and facts that's been given out, statistics that's been given out. So it is what it is from there.
That part, what he said, you know. But listen, thank y'all for joining us. And if we can take a minute, let's introduce some of the folks that have joined us tonight to talk about this stuff. And don't get it twisted. I mean, yeah, this is still a biker show. We're all about the bikes, right? But this is stuff that bikers are supposed to know. So that's why we're here. So let me start with introducing Lorraine Smith, all the way from the doggone UK. I call her Lo. Lo's from London, and Lo is a social work practitioner who has on the other side of the pond. She has a great amount of experience, and she's dealt with what human trafficking looks like in the UK. So in London. So if we can, let's give a big boneyard welcome to Lo, aka Lorraine Smith. Hey, say it like you mean it, Lo. Say it like you mean it.
Yeah, I absolutely mean it. So hi everybody, my name's Lorraine. And like I said, like Bone said, I'm a social work practitioner, 25 years in the game. And some of my experiences whilst in practice has been working with vulnerable young women who've been trafficked with gangs through the European bloc to the UK. And I've actually managed cases and also court cases as well. So yeah, within my lived experience at work and in practice, I do have some experience. So hopefully I'll be able to share some insights with you about that today in tonight's show.
Outstanding. So the Queen Bee is also with us here, Helen Brown. She is the, if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, the founder of No More Tears out of Mississippi, but y'all are doing work all across the country, if I got it right. But in the meantime, Queen Bee, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you all. Thank you all for having me. And yes, I am the founder of No More Tears, and we are based out of Mississippi, but our services are worldwide. We build foundations for those who have been victimized due to human trafficking.
Right. Outstanding. And one more person.
And might I add, I am a biker. I
was going to get
to that. Harley Davidson. So I
AKA
am a biker.
The Queen Bee part of it. That's the Queen Bee
yes.
part of it. Right on.
Yes.
Because on occasion, she's been known to ride her shit. Wait, your bike is a road glide?
Road glide.
Because you know they go up front, right? Did you know about that?
Oh,
Road
I knew
glides go up
that.
Yeah,
front.
road glides up
Go up
front.
front.
That part. Okay.
All day,
And
every day.
that part. You know, we just hurt a lot of people's feelings with that statement. That's some old
I
biker
know.
shit. Road glides up
I know.
front because that's where they're supposed to be. But also, folks, we want to invite, or not invite, we want to welcome Emily to the Big Boneyard, to the show, to the family, all of that. Emily is somebody very special to us right now because she's actually suffered through this. She's a survivor of human trafficking. So if you ever wonder what it looks like, I think Emily is going to help us understand that. But Emily, thank you for coming tonight.
Go ahead,
So
Emily.
having said that, Emily is quiet. Let me say,
Right.
she hit us with one of these. Right on. Anyway, so I'll tell you what. So it is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and Lord knows we're going to try to end out the month putting again some more attention on this. And I guess if we could get started, Queen Bee, your whole thing is kind of blows my freaking mind because much like Tone Polly that was on the show last week, who told us a amazing story about 3 young kids that he rescued, and we were kind of blown away with that. So glad that it happened, and he gave us the play-by-play. Tell us about, we want to do the who, what, when, where, why, and how with you. So I guess my first thing I want to ask you is what got you interested in doing this work? Like, how did that start?
Well, first I saw the movie Taken, like everybody. I saw it and I was like, oh, I said, that's very interesting. But it only happens overseas somewhere, it never happens here. And then I heard a story here in Jackson where a 5-year-old child was brought here from Memphis, Tennessee, and they raped this child at a local hotel, and they recorded it. And somebody found the recording, and those 2 gentlemen were prosecuted here in Jackson, Mississippi for human trafficking was the first case. And I said, you know what? I have children, I have grandchildren. We need to say something. And so that's how we started. And actually, that's how I met Emily, because I knew Emily's mom. Emily's mom rides motorcycles. So there's a connection here. So we've been doing this for a long, long time. And and I want to say that I am so proud of Emily. And Emily is a thriver. And I learned so much from her. She taught me that she's more than a survivor. She's a thriver because she has beaten the odds, and she's in my ear teaching me and telling me how to go and what to do. I can remember going to a jail cell with Emily, and Emily sitting me down talking to me and telling me this is what it is. And it was sad to say that, just because a person wears a uniform does not mean they're always here to save you. Sometimes they could be working against you. So you got to understand, they come from all different walks of life. These people, these perpetrators come from all different walks of life. You're going to see that. And I see so much every day that I really can't. I don't want to say too much on this live, but it is so much that I see every day. People that have their hands in this, because this is $1 billion industry. And where there's money involved, you get all types of people.
So
and it's going to scare you.
So 2 things for full disclosure purposes. You are a police detective or a police officer in some
I am
fashion,
law enforcement.
correct?
I am law enforcement.
So you're in law enforcement. If I remember properly, you were a part of a human trafficking task force, which kind of springboard you into creating No More Tears.
I am on the human trafficking Mississippi Human Trafficking Council, and what we do is train. We go out and we train everybody. Different agencies. We train the community, go in the communities, bringing awareness to human trafficking, and we go anywhere. And basically, another thing that we work together and we save those who are in that world and in that game, those who want to be saved. Because some of them, you have to understand that Stockholm syndrome. You can't blame them for not wanting to get out because it's Stockholm syndrome. They don't know any better. It's just what they were taught.
So No More Tears. My understanding is, or my first understanding of it was, well, this is a biker organization that works with that works to combat human trafficking. But as I'm finding out, it's not really all bikers, is it? Like, can other folks, like, what's the situation?
I have on my board, actually, Emily's on my board. Emily's on my board.
Right on.
Yes, Emily, and I have professors on my board. I mean, different walks of life, and we did that. It was a business move because we're trying to reach everybody. Because I have someone that's a professor at a college, because that's where students are.
Right.
Everywhere there's a student, listen, in the homeless, we have someone in the homeless field, because a lot of homeless people, though they're ranked high for being victims of trafficking. So we just grabbed a lot of people that had that passion, basically, for trafficking, and it's working very well for us.
Gotcha. How long has No More Tears been in existence?
Since 2017.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yes,
So, what kind of successes have you had?
we have lots of. Here's one.
Okay. Okay.
Emily's
Right
one.
on.
Yes, and we have several. We have a lot of young ladies that have actually worked with us, and we're sticking by them. When I tell you we're boots on the ground, we're boots on the ground. This is every day. Every day there's a different situation. And I was just talking to you earlier today and telling you how I learned something different every day, especially about labor trafficking.
I
I
wanted
was
to
telling
ask
you
you.
about that.
You were telling me about somebody from Guatemala
Oh yeah.
that was a little girl. What?
She
If you
was,
can
I think
share
she
that
was in
with
the
us.
15. I think she was 15. I think she
15.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, and a local agency actually called me, and it was on a holiday weekend, and it was a Sunday. They called me, and they said, "We have a girl out here that was dropped off at a hotel. It was in South Jackson." So I left, and I went out there, and basically because I
A little
knew I
rough,
didn't
ain't
want
it,
to have
out there? South Jackson's a
a little
little
rough.
rough, ain't
It's
it?
a little rough. It's a little rough, but I went to South Jackson because I didn't have a uniform on, and I knew they had uniforms on. And one thing they're scared of are police officers. So
Yeah.
I went in and I asked. I said, "Hey, has anybody talked to her about being trafficked?" And they told me, "Well, she hadn't been nobody sexually. She hadn't been sex trafficked." I said, "Okay, what about labor trafficking?" Because I noticed that she was from Guatemala. And
Yeah.
after I had someone to get on the line to translate with me for me, found out that she was working in a chicken plant, and it was labor trafficking. So we got a lot of people, and when I tell you, we have a team that's so strong here on the local level, state, federal, and homeland security. When I tell you, it's amazing that we all work together, and we got her help.
In regard to the girl from Guatemala, so one, I mean, she wasn't there on her own accord. I mean, like, how did they
Right?
keep her there? I mean, did they beat her? Did they drug her? Did they,
They were beating her.
threaten to, they were beating? Okay,
They were beating her. Yes.
and
Yes.
I'm assuming they wasn't paying her, I guess, either.
Correct.
Yeah. All right.
Her uncle was getting all the money.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
a lot of times, like when we was talking to Tone last week, also big shout out to Tone. I know he's on here right now.
yeah.
He's on the chat. So shout out to him for what he's doing up there in Detroit. But what he was saying last week was that a lot of these girls that's getting abducted and bought into this trafficking scene has came from actual family members. People that they actually were around all the time, people that they trusted. So I guess my question is, it's like, and I know this is probably more on Emily because she can actually speak on this as to like how exactly did it actually start. I know there was a process that took place before this happened, or was it just something that just all of a sudden just boom, this is what went on.
Right.
Are you talking about in regards to the familia trafficking?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
the familia trafficking usually starts early in the home. When the child is a minor,
Right.
I'm just going to give an example. Say that a mother goes out and she leaves her daughter there with her boyfriend or stepdad, and he messes with her. And she tells her mom, like, "Hey, look, this happened while you were gone." And she's like, "Girl, shut the hell up. That's how our bills are getting paid.
Right.
Don't say nothing. You want to live on this." So it's basically like they're allowing their children to be used in that way, and they're aware of it, but they're reaping the benefits.
Right.
And that goes
Oh
on a
wow.
lot. And a lot of times that, a child doesn't say anything until they're old enough to know better, because that's what they grew up doing and they think that's
Right.
normal.
Right.
Right.
And
Got
then you're most definitely right about that, Emily. And a lot of times those children act out, and we label them as being having behavior problems. because we don't look beneath the surface. And that's what we need to start doing, is looking beneath the surface and figure out, why is this child acting like this? Because this is not normal. You know, and if
Right.
you all sit back, and I can tell you, if you sit back and you think about things when we were younger, trafficking was all around us then. And it's crazy, because I was telling Big Bone earlier, you know, I have 5 granddaughters, and 2 of my granddaughters' mothers, they're survivors of trafficking. You know, it
Wow.
has been going on for a long time, y'all.
That
This is
hit
why
home. That hits home.
listen,
Right.
and it hit home really for me after, because I didn't know this prior. But coming up, I saw it, y'all. But I wish I knew then what I know now, you know, but it was coming. That's what they did back then, you know. Shh, don't say anything. And, you know,
Yeah, so
and
everything is basically like a family secret.
yes, and also a
Right.
lot of people thinking that trafficking is only when you cross state lines. Trafficking can happen right here in our backyard, every day, all day.
Absolutely.
You know, and one thing we need to start doing is stop victimizing the victim again. When a
Right.
person tell you they've been trafficked, stop asking them, telling them they did it because you were on drugs. When nobody wakes up and say they want to be a drug addict or being prostituted, okay?
Right.
We're not
Right.
talking about these. We're not talking about these Johns who are out here. Well, we don't call them Johns anymore. They're sex buyers, is what they are. Those
Right.
are the ones that need to be on the news every day, instead of these
Right.
people, these women and children who are being trafficked. And I know you all know that you can tell I'm getting hyped because I'm passionate about this.
Yeah.
And this is what I see. And we need to do more things like this and talk about this. And we need to become educated on what it really is and say that and stand on it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I have to second what Queen Bee's saying. Absolutely. I'm absolutely hearing you, because it's not just even within the UK and Eastern European, you know, the European bloc. There is everybody kind of looks at the bigger picture, but actually some of the most horrific cases I've worked with has been in trafficking, has been domestically within my own backyard.
Yes.
Okay. And just to kind of like broaden it out, I just want to be mindful, but it's not just children.
Right.
We're talking about, in the UK, people with cognition deficits, young people, 15, 16 or 25-year-olds that have a learning disability. Because this is kind of the user group I work with, and I've worked with so many young women that have either a mental health disorder or a learning disability that have been trafficked domestically in my backyard where I live. And I work for the borough. I'm not going to, obviously, for disclosure purposes and for GDPR purposes, but yeah. So it's a real thing. And in my practice, I've literally worked on a court case, for a year, for 1 year. That's how serious it was, with somebody who had a cognition deficit that was trafficked by a gang of males for almost 3 years. Her family didn't even know where she was. And I worked on that. I was commissioned because I work for myself sometimes as well. So, you know, I just work for myself at times. So I commission myself out to local authorities to, you know, I guess you would call that your local government over here. So I worked on that case for a year. So just to let you know, that's how serious it is. So you've got your domestic as well as the broader picture, because, you know, we've got an issue in the UK. It's huge, absolutely huge. It's
let
so
me ask
big.
you something. I was just wondering. So you've been in this this industry, or working
25 years
for 25 years. What are some of the things that you've seen in the UK and throughout the Eastern Bloc? What are some of the either one, the telltale signs, like that someone has been trafficked, or more importantly, what sort of folks do you see most vulnerable to trafficking over there? And is it
quite
different
similar to what Emily and Queen Bee saying? You know, it's you kind of like some of the situations are, you know, young women or vulnerable people in hotels, and lots of men going in and out the hotels. That's a telltale sign. Yeah. But also, it's not just the hotels. It just could be a family home, and then somebody might raise a concern, and it's a safeguarding, and the safeguarding comes through to the local authority or the police, because in Britain, safeguarding is everybody's business. So we're all connected. So it could be a nurse, a doctor, a police officer. It could be your neighbor. It could be the pastor from a church. It could be, somebody working in a local community. It's everybody's business. That is the difference. It's not just, that's a social worker. It's a police officer. It's completely different. So, but more importantly, it's something that is hard. It is very hard because people are, there's a fear factor as well, because we've got gangs operating, and what they do as well, they kind of, I'm not sure if you've heard of Cocoon, Queen Bee, when they take, so basically what they do, so gangs of, it could be drug dealers or sex traffickers, they will take over somebody's property who's vulnerable. So it could be somebody who's been saved, right? And they will take over the property to not only do drugs and, work, do their thing there, but they also sex traffic young people and vulnerable people. So again, you see that the mesh, it's huge. It's really big.
It is.
It's not just a one stage, it's very big. It's very broad. It is difficult, but I think that as long as communities know they've got a safe place that they can call to safeguard these vulnerable people. And, sometimes people think, I shouldn't get involved. Maybe it's just a hunch. You know what? Sometimes your hunch is very important and it can save somebody's life.
Yes.
No, so that's what I'm going to say on that.
That number is that you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Let me tell you guys, please, when you have a tip, you don't have to leave your name. Start calling that hotline, because there are so many local agencies that are not educated on how to handle human trafficking. They don't know. So you need to listen. I promise you, if you go ahead and call that hotline, even if it's a little hunch, even if somebody told you something, report it to the hotline. It's going to launch a whole investigation. Even the small things, you guys, will turn into something big.
Right on. Emily, I guess one of the things, and again, I'm just extremely glad that you're here, and I don't mean to put you in the hot seat, but if you're comfortable, can you tell us, because one of the number one questions that keeps coming up that we've been getting a lot since last week was, well, man, how does this happen? Like, how is it that a girl from Idaho ends up in friggin' Detroit in a hotel room and they're getting ready to ship her to Canada? Like, if you don't mind, like, how long ago was it that this happened to you, and how did it happen, if you feel comfortable with it?
Sure. So one of the things that I feel that it's important to address is those who are at risk. And it's not just children. It's not just women. For one, poverty-stricken communities, people that suffer from drug addiction and alcoholism and choose to live in the streets. People, of course it does happen to youth too, but I think it's also to talk about it happens to you as an adult, because it happened to me as an adult. I'm a person living in long-term recovery from drug addiction. So I got exposed being in the streets. Had a home, chose to be in the streets. I was addicted to the street life and everything that came along with it. What I was not aware of was the actual pimping. Okay. So when you talk about sex trafficking, you think about the movie Taken, like Helen said. And I thought, oh, okay. So that's what sex trafficking is. People sneaking across the border, the migrants, the labor trafficking. I didn't know what sex trafficking actually was, and had been a part of it for probably close to 8 to 10 years without even realizing that I was involved. So in 2008, I was walking down the street, minding my business, going to score some dope, and I got picked up in Mississippi by a guy. He was in a white Cadillac and had Texas tags. Being in desperation, being an addict, walking the streets, somebody comes up, hey, you need a ride? Sure. Willing to do anything or whatever. Well, I get in the car and he says, bitch, I'm a pimp. And I was like, ha, 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 didn't really believe there was any truth to that, but he was. And what happened from that point is he took my cell phone. He placed me in a hotel room. He gave me another cell phone and he told me, This is what you say. This is how you talk. These are the questions that you ask. This is your price. I'll be outside the door. So you might be wondering, like, well, why didn't you buck him? Why didn't you try to get away? There was something about this situation that I knew that was not safe, because I knew that he meant business. And at that point, he hadn't put his hands on me, but he had instilled some fear into me. So as this started happening, I thought, God, this guy knows a lot of people. Like, who are these people that keep calling? Well, one of the gentlemen that came in, he said, your pictures are beautiful online. And I said, online? May I see? And he was like, yeah, you're more beautiful in person. Let me show you. He was selling me on a platform at this time was Craigslist, which no longer has an escorting section. So he was selling me online. And that's how I figured out that everything just started making sense. So then it started coming to, I've got to escape. I've got to escape. He was always sitting outside the door to collect the money. There never was a point of escape.
Right.
And one night, now, mind you, I was in the streets. I was running for some legal trouble. The night that I finally got some relief, I called the police myself. I knew I had a warrant. I was just trying to get away from him. I didn't care. And when the police arrived, because there was no knowledge of sex trafficking or what was actually going on, they didn't ask who my name was. They didn't ask who his name was. They just thought I was another girl on drugs that was crazy, that was tripping. And I wasn't even on drugs at the time. So they offered to follow me outside of the city limits of Jackson, Mississippi, and that's what they did. So sex trafficking is, there's a couple of different definitions, but for me, I kept denying that I had been a part of sex trafficking because I had developed Stockholm syndrome.
Right.
I ended up developing a relationship for the perpetrator, which is crazy because I was supposed to be street smart. I was supposed to know better than, and I ended up falling for the okie doke, the manipulation. I felt obligated. He paid for some rooms. He bought me some clothes. He did this. We were going to build an empire. We were going to do this, all these crazy things that never happened.
What kind of places did he have you working out of?
So initially it was hotels, truck stops, casinos, out of town. Like, you would take me out of town, New Orleans, Bourbon Street, Canal Street. The game's different there. In different towns, you're going to have different means. You're going to be sold on different platforms. The platforms are constantly changing. Backpage took their Craigslist took their escorting section down because someone got murdered. So then they started working on a platform called Backpage. Well, that became illegal because it was owned in the United States. So they switched the name of it and they changed it. And it was owned out of another country. So it's still going. It's still in operation. But it depends on what city you're in. And you talk about how did a girl in Idaho end up in a hotel in Detroit? Because what happens is in these same cities, there's only so many clients or Johns. So you have to move to another city because they don't keep wanting the same thing over and over again. So either the pimps trade, I'm just going to talk freely if that's okay, without a filter.
Go ahead. Do your thing.
So the pimps trade their hoes. They go into other states, and then when they're used up here, they just sell them as a whole into another country, and nobody, a lot of the times these people have been missing for so long, or they've been on alcohol or drugs for so long that nobody's looking for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Man, and that's, as crazy as that seems, and I appreciate you sharing that, and because I think what happens is we have a tendency to gloss over what it is that takes place, and because it's hard to think about, it's definitely hard to think about. But if it kind of smacks you right in the face, and you're thinking that's somebody that you love that's happening to, it's a terrifying thought, and you want to make sure that they're protected. So if the only thing anybody gets out of this is how to keep their family members and their loved ones safe, then we hit a home run. If we do the second part of it, the reason I was asking you, like, where were you, is because every place that you mentioned, as in the thing that we just have addressed, and we realize again and again and again and again, is that us bikers, man, we are some of everywhere. There's bikers in the UK, all over the UK, all over London, which Lo and I have talked about this before. Bikers all over the UK, bikers all over Mississippi, all over the country. And at every place that they might have taken you to, or even in the case of the girl in Guatemala who was working at this chicken plant, guess what? There's bikers that work there. There's bikers that go there. If we know what to look for, we can start engaging and, and doing what we need to do to help out. Speaking of, what would you say, Queen Bee, what are some of the, if you meet a person or you run across a person, what should we be looking for? Like, what kind of stuff should I say if I'm just in fucking Walmart or whatever, and I see what am I looking for that makes me think, hey, damn, that might be somebody in trouble right now?
Well, in a lot of cases, you walk right by them and you wouldn't know what's going on, because a lot of times you wouldn't be able to identify it. But we're going to say, we'll say as far as the labor part, the people that are on the side of the street that's begging, if they're underage and they're begging. It's like I was telling about that 1-year-old child that was at Target with the mother. That's a part of labor trafficking. And they were using money, and the person was getting all the money from her.
Right.
And then also, I'm like a magnet. If I go somewhere, I can identify a person. I can tell you just the way that person, it's just a vibe that I get. You can look at the tattoos. You wouldn't be able to just identify the tattoos unless you work with the tattoos, and you'll be able to understand some of the things that you see.
Right.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I'm saying, no, I'm just,
okay.
I'm saying we were talking about some of that,
Yeah. And
like
then
what some of these tattoos, pimps use one thing, and traffickers, especially international type, they use a whole other thing. We talked about that barcode thing they were doing. And, so a lot of those things are stuff that a lot of folks said just from last week, said, man, I never even knew that. Never heard of that. You go to
Waffle House. Listen, I'm sure a lot of times, when you go to bike events, after bike events, we go to Waffle House and eat. You can listen, they're in there all night. You can tell the way they dress.
Yeah.
Not everybody dressed like that are being trafficked, okay?
Right.
But you can tell the ones that's going to be with their pimp, or because sometimes they're with a female version of a pimp who's a madam.
Right.
And they're never going to talk to you and address you. They're never going to look at you. They're never going to allow them to even say anything.
Right.
And then also, just like I'm jumping over to, like, if a person is on a police stop and they see children in the vehicle, underage children, and they might be different races. Not saying different races can't ride together, but if you see a black male with a white female and a black female, you get them out. And if you ask those juveniles or women or men or wherever they're from, or half the time they don't even know where they are.
Right.
They're not going to tell you their names. You ask them where their documents are. Guess what? Somebody has had their documents. You know why they're holding the documents, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they can't go. They can't go nowhere. Right. Can't do nothing. You can't even rent a hotel without a damn driver's license or state ID or something.
That's how I was ending up with this young lady over at Target I was telling you about, with that 1-year-old baby out there.
Oh yeah.
Asking for money. And I told her, I said, well, I'll pay for your hotel and I'll go and buy baby some food. The baby hadn't eaten all day. And she said, well, somebody else is holding my documents. Light bulb went on, and I immediately, in my first contact, I contacted CPS. And a lot of people don't like calling Child Protective Services, but that is the first line of defense for you when there's a child involved. And I did that, and when I started working on some different things, but I know I'm jumping to another subject. But another thing you can look at the malnourished. You can see the ones that are they're labeled as runaways, and I don't like that word, because when you label a child or someone as a runaway or missing, a runaway, they don't get that much attention when you say runaway.
Right.
They're missing. If they're juveniles, they're missing regardless. I don't care if they left home willingly, because they're top of the list at risk, just like homeless people.
Right.
And sometimes these people you'll see them, they'll be abused, bruises, all kinds of different things. The crowd that they hang around, they're doing different things. Some of them might have money. Their wardrobe changes, their crowd changes. And now they're turning against you. The children that are turned against you, the ones you fed, because somebody's in their ear, and they're turning them against you because you're trying to protect them from the street. And this somebody else is basically trying to get them. And if you also have kids, you have children, make sure you pay attention to Roblox, that game Roblox. Let me tell you, they are.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
It's a game that all these.
Yeah, my grandson plays it. Yeah, Lavelle plays it.
Yeah. pay attention to.
They groom young kids on there. So basically, you could be playing a game with a 4 or 5-year-old, and you could be paying. We call them nonces, but pedophiles will pretend and mark as they're another 6.5-year-old child. So just be mindful that grooming doesn't just. It's not something that's always in a social situation in the community. It actually is kind of prevalent online now. So
yes, because they're playing games. Yeah, they're playing games with these people on a daily basis, and you're like, well, my child didn't do anything. My child's just in the room on the game or on this device. This device is dangerous. You hear me?
Yeah,
it's very dangerous.
I think you've hit something there, Queen Bee. Definitely, I think not just the biker community, but within all of our communities, we just need to be mindful that technology actually is the gateway for lots of danger and social ills.
And while we're around here looking for a white van to kidnap someone, over 90% of these people probably know the person that's trafficked them.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's somebody that got under their skin, under them just to recruit them. And then I'm gonna tell you another little story of mine that I ran into. A 15-year-old girl ran away, and we actually encountered. We found her, and she told me that I need to save the children at this certain school. It was a middle school. I was like, "What do you mean?" Because the pimp was sending her into the school to recruit the girls. So while we're looking for a white van, these children they're recruiters inside the school that's recruiting our children. So that's why we have to educate our children and our families on what's really going on.
You know what? We just had a question that came in from Myron Mosley, which, by the way, shout out to Myron Mosley. He actually orchestrated and he actually made the intro music for the Big Boneyard. It was specifically made for Myron Mosley. We love you, boy. Yeah, he's a very talented musician. Like, he hates it when I say he's like Prince because he can play everything. But anyway, he has a question. Myron says, what's the likelihood of perpetrators being held accountable by the law once they're identified? And if not, if it's low, then how can we increase it?
Well, one thing about it, now, if they're underage, you don't have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. If they're underage, if they're juveniles. But if that person is over the age of 18, you have to prove that. Now, hopefully we can get a text message or something, setting up a date is what they call it. Yeah. Hopefully we can get something like that. But if you don't have anything concrete, most of the time these women and children of men, whoever that person is being victimized is, they're not going to go up against and say, they trafficked me. They're not going to do that. Because of the fear of they've been threatened. They've been their life been threatened and their families. And they're not going to stand up and say that. And half of the time, to be honest, you guys, and I know I'm law enforcement, but it's law enforcement that's not on the right side of the fence. And so who you going to tell? You know?
So
I think that I'm not sure. No, carry on.
No, I was saying that I think it's sad because while I'm just sitting here listening to you ladies talk and Emily giving out her story. I appreciate that, Emily. But I was sitting here thinking, because a lot of, throughout the years, I know a lot of women, and a lot of them, once you get comfortable, to where they feel like talking, a lot of them always talk about something that happened to them when they were younger, whether it was an uncle. This one particular story was a woman that I was talking to that told me that her father, her own blood father, had been messing with her from the time she was like 7 to 8 years old. And when she got older, he would let his friends come, and they would pay him to do stuff with her. And so I think what I'm talking about now is, it's like you got the ones who've been involved and they got away. But then you have a lot of women that's like, this is like a silent killer for them, because they've never been able to put it out. They've never been able to someone know, like, okay, this happened to me. You know what I mean? And they
Right.
keep that in there, and they live with that throughout years because they feel that, you know, and you can tell a lot. Like when I started listening to some of the stories of some of the women who had told me that, and then you think back in their history and you're like, okay, that kind of explains the reason why A, B, and C, the reason why you are in a
Right.
abusive relationship and why you keep
Yes.
going back and forth and stuff like that, because this is stuff that was programmed in you, that you know, throughout those years you felt that that's what a relationship was supposed to be like. That's what you thought life was supposed to be. And then you trying to, you know, even though you knew once you got older that it wasn't the thing to do, but it's already programmed into you
Yes.
to have those characteristics. You know what I mean? That you fall into the same thing. So one of my questions would be, what do you say to the woman who's probably listening right now that had this situation go on with them and just never said anything about it? You know what I mean? What's out there for them to be able to, you know, to talk to someone to actually get that out? You know what I mean? Because you think the first thing to being able to move forward is to get over whatever happened in the past. But I know, you know, I mean, with certain situations, a lot of that stuff ain't something that you can just say, okay, I'm over it and I can move forward. The stuff carries on for a lifetime. So what would you tell them once that's just been silent about it?
What would you think, Emily? I know, first off, I know they need to get some type of counseling. I know that's going to be the first thing they need to do is get some type of counseling because, you know, they're going to need it because when you open up old wounds, different things starts to happen, especially things you had blocked out for a long time. So, Emily, I mean, I think you would be a good person to answer that.
So the question, I'm sorry, ask the question. I had to take my dog outside. The question was,
What would you give a person? Just say, for instance, we have a person that we've actually encountered who needed some. We got them out of the game. What would be the first thing because they really didn't tell their story or they didn't tell anybody what went on? So you tell me what would be the first thing that you think so they can start actually facing what actually their past, their demons. You know.
so first and most importantly is not to get too many people involved in the intervention process because they don't people they're not going to trust many people because they've been misled so many times. But also it's important, like trauma therapy is really
Yes.
important. And
Yeah.
you don't want to ask a person to join a movement or be a part of an
Right.
organization until their traumas are healed, because you need to be able, if you're going to advocate, if you're going to be able to help another individual, you have to make sure that your traumas are healed. But also it's important to find out, like, if the person really truthfully wants to change, because a lot of times they'll act like they want to get out of the game, but deep down they believe that that was their boyfriend or that was like their only family, because they've been alienated from their family for so long. They've been alienated from friends for so long that person, that attachment that they have is, even though it was miserable and they went through a lot of really bad things, they tend to go back to that situation. So you have to really get a person, you know, to get gut level honest about what they want. And you can't really force a person to be ready for something that they're not, because that lifestyle becomes addictive. Just
Right.
like the dope game. You know,
Right.
that money comes fast and that money comes easy. And if that's all you've been doing for the last 10 years and somebody's telling you to go out here and get a minimum wage job and you're making at a job in a week, which you can make in 15 or 20 minutes, you know, it's the only thing you have to change is everything. But it takes a lot of guidance, just like it would in that type of situation. You know, it takes a team of people. It takes
Yes.
doctors, it takes social
Yes.
workers, it takes therapists, it takes a like-minded person that's been where you've been. You know, it's about attraction rather than promotion. You have to attract somebody to a new lifestyle if this is what they're used to.
Right.
Well, you know what? Let me throw out a couple of things real quick. We've got a lot of folks that are sharing some thoughts and so forth with us. One of which Cecil, aka Jalen Walker, the motherfucking Night Stalker. We were in the Marine Corps together, and
Okay.
also in BFI. Love you, boy. But he said this is not new to our community.
No.
This
Right.
this just doesn't happen to our girls either. So that's the thing that, you know, we definitely should remember that too. It's not, because it's real easy to focus on the little girls and watch them. I have 2 daughters, so that's easy for me in my head to forget that this can happen to little boys too. Frost says, as always, he does a great job in reminding me to please share with everybody. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, because we want to keep putting out great content like this. So let folks know what we're talking about. This is a subject that everybody should definitely know. So definitely like, share, subscribe, all of that. If you haven't hit the like button tonight, do it. If you haven't shared this with somebody else, get this in front of some, I don't care, biker or not, get this in front of some folks that need to know about this stuff.
But you know what, Bone?
Yeah.
You know what, Bone? It was another thing I was going to say too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, like throughout the years, like I said, I've talked to a lot of people, you know what I mean, dealing, and that's why this kind of, when I brought up about doing this type of show, it didn't, like, it hit home for the simple fact of the people that I knew that went through it.
Right.
And it was like one of the biggest things that I asked was like, okay, why didn't you reach out to someone? Why didn't you tell your mother or your father or somebody?
Right.
And always the same answer that I got was that they did tell them, but they just didn't believe them.
Oh, wow.
You know, because this other person, whether he was a dad, a stepdad, a brother, boyfriend, or whatever, you know, they felt that it was going to cause some kind of disturbance, or it was going to interfere with what they was trying to do. So they kind of pushed it off as though these young ladies were liars. You know what I mean? You just making this up for that we can break up, or you don't like him, so you're making this up for me to, you know. And it's like, when you put somebody into a situation like that, especially at a young age, that that you can't go to the person that you feel is supposed to be able to protect you, because they're not going to believe you. So it just keeps, right. It's like it keeps going. And then you know, when you get older, you got these huge trust issues, because you can't let nothing out, because you know that last time that you try to do this is what took place. You know what I mean? So you know, a lot of people live for years and have these skeletons that haunts them every day. You know what I mean? You can't, that's not a subject that you just walk up to people and just talk about. You have to be, you know what I mean, totally comfortable with the person that you're sitting beside, to be able to divulge this kind of information without being judged or ridiculed, or, you know what I mean, or may feel some kind of way about it, you know. So so when we was first talking about this, it really hit home, because I know all these different friends of mine that went through this, and I had this conversation with them and stuff like that. But, you know, back then you didn't hear about, you know, trafficking. You didn't hear about that then.
Right.
You know, now you hear about it every now and then, but it's not a focal point. It's like, it's not important enough to the mainstream media that they need to keep pushing this issue.
Right.
But it has to be pushed, though. You know what I mean? And a lot of this just start in your community. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, the reason why a lot of this goes now, because, you know, back in the day, everybody knew everybody in your community. You knew your kids. You knew everybody. Most communities now, like, I know that the neighborhood I live in now, I don't know not one person, and I've been here for 2 years. I don't know not one person on this street. And I know the little lady down the street, she got like five, 6 little kids over there. You know what I mean? Now I know the little kids, because when they walk by, I'll get, you know what I mean, what's your name? You know what I mean? So that way, when I see you, I can call you by your name. You know, but a lot of the communities aren't built like that anymore. It's like everybody has this, okay, well, I'm minding my own business type persona going on, as instead of, you know, like, I know you being nosy. I mean, peek through the curtains. I know you being nosy. I know you. Now, if I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, you would know. You know what I mean? So why are we not paying attention to these kids?
Yo, I'll tell you a thing. My father told me years ago. My father and my grandfather were like the same age. He was older, but he told me a thing that when he said it didn't really hit home. But I thought about it years later, and I got what he was saying. He said that there's a couple of things that change the culture of communities throughout America and Europe, because he spent a lot of time in Europe during the war and so forth. And he said it was, hold on to your hat, air conditioning. Fucking, I'm like, air conditioning? The hell does that mean? He said, well, back in the day before everybody had AC, in the evening especially, folks will go outside, the kids are playing, people sit on the porch, you holler at your neighbor, people go for walks and everything, because it was the evening time. It was usually a little cool, especially in the South in the summertime, or even up north where it's crazy hot in the summertime if you live in the city. It goes, air conditioning, let everybody go inside, because it was air conditioning inside. And then TV, well, technically three things: air conditioning, TV, and cable. He said that made people stop interacting with everybody in their neighborhood and start spending time indoors. He goes, and that was he said he watched the demise of relationships between neighbors because of those things. And now, flash forward a lot of years, yeah, you're right. You don't know who in some cases, you don't know who your next door neighbor is, or barely know who the person across the street is. And even though like perfect example was, if y'all remember that one dude that had kidnapped those three girls, they made like several Lifetime movies about it. This one guy, I forget his name, this Spanish dude had kidnapped those three girls and had a couple of kids with one of them and all. Remember that?
I remember.
And there's that crazy looking black guy who helped them escape because he heard somebody screaming. And of course, they put the craziest looking black dude in North America on the doggone on the TV. He happened to be the one to save him, which I was like, man, where's Denzel when you need him? We got this crackhead dude, but he did his thing, right? He did his thing. He helped these people. And the thing is, he had been keeping these girls and kidnapping these girls for years, many, many years. And nobody knew it, because guess what? You don't know who your neighbor is, and we still feel like a lot of us still think, man, if we had known better. I'm going to go back to the biker thing for a second, because I think the one thing that I've figured out in the research and all the conversations about this series that we're doing now about human trafficking is that there's so many of us that are so many different places, that we're all those places where these girls, these boys, these women, we're all the places where they are. And excuse me. Sorry. But yeah, we're all the places where these folks are. And if we just know what to look for, that's why I keep asking, what should we be looking for, so that all of these thousands of eyes and ears out there, we can plug in and get to know something. Let me say a couple of things real quick. And again, Frost said, like, not me, Frost said, like, subscribe, share, all like that. Shada asked the question. We're going to go to a quick commercial in a second, but Shada from Awaken Chaos, fantastic club, says, what's the proper way to handle handle a situation if you come across someone in that situation that would not endanger their safety? That's a great question. Emily, let me ask you that question. What's the proper way to handle a situation if you come across somebody that's in this situation, that's being trafficked, that would not be dangerous to that person?
So, 9 times out of 10, when you see a girl, the pimp ain't that far. And he's just allowed her to walk to the store or something to try to catch a date. He's not far. So without putting yourself in danger, the best way would just to be to call that hotline, because it's anonymous. You don't have to be involved. And if you want to call your local authorities, and just report it. But I think that hotline would be the best way without getting yourself involved, and to try to get that person some help.
No, right on. And I think the thing that's kind of cool about that also is, so I was explaining this to me and Queen Bee were having this conversation. I'm like, this is a very awkward situation for me, because Queen Bee, she's this pretty woman biker. At the same time, she's a cop. I'm like, that's the diamond in me makes that a difficult thing, but
I know.
But the father in me makes this, hell yeah, you got to get plugged into this thing. So, and like Tone said this last week, is that, hey, we don't call those 3 numbers. This is one of those situations, and y'all won't hear me say this a lot of times about a lot of things, but this is one of those situations where is get whatever, in my opinion, get as much help as you can when it's time to help these women, these little boys, these little girls. they need help, and they don't give a damn where it came from. You know, they need help. And sometimes they don't even know that they need help because they've been in this situation for so long. Stockholm syndrome. They've been conditioned. You know, they've been, you know, we say, I use the word conditioned, but it's training. They've been trained to think a certain way. They've been conditioned to think the worst of the police. They've been conditioned to think the worst of anybody that comes around them, because that's what they've seen. They've seen the worst. So we got to do better with that. But
I got a quick one.
Yeah.
Before you do the commercial thing, I got a quick one.
Yeah.
Now, you remember back a few years ago, they had it was a signal that, like, if you were in a bar, so like there was a woman in a bar and
I remember that.
she was being distressed, or she felt like she was in a bad situation, that she could go and, like, I think it was like she could walk to somebody and like squeeze their wrist 3 times, and then it was like a signal that you was in distress. Is there something that, what I'm asking these 3 ladies, is there something that, like a signal that if somebody, like if you was in a store or something and somebody did this signal, you would know, okay, this is what's going on, this is what I need to do?
Unfortunately, Archbishop, because of the entrenched amount of fear, coercion, and distress for those people that are in those situations, it'll be very, very difficult. So you imagine if you kind of like you said, you're kind of ingrained, like Emily was saying, that's your life, that's all you know. It's very difficult to kind of think outside the box. Oh, well, this is my life. This is what I'm used to. This is my normal. Yeah. So maybe it's about each one to each one. And maybe it's something that we can kind of, as the collective, think about introducing something, because actually, even in the UK, there's no discourse around that. So it's really around kind of like, I think you was talking about picking up on, well, what do you do if you see something? Actually, all of us we are empaths. And if you walk into a situation and you can kind of pick up on the senses, because 80% of communication is nonverbal. Think about it in that way. Right. So you could be out somewhere and you can actually pick up if something's not right between a couple or something's not right. You can kind of pick up on it. So, trust your judgment. It's not always, you just kind of just have some insight and just be vigilant about your surroundings. I think sometimes in life we get caught up. We're not really looking out for what's going on around us, but just trying to be vigilant, because the world is not such a safe place. Right. And as members of our community, there's a lot that we can do to safeguard others. There's just being mindful about your surroundings and just being vigilant. That's what I would say to everyone. And that's not just, that's everywhere. That's in your neighborhoods. That's your next door neighbors. That's church, your biker community, wherever it is. Doesn't matter. Yeah?
Hey, so we're going to take just a few minutes to do some, man, I always say this wrong. It's not station identification. Just a word from our sponsor. No, but look, we're going to take a quick 30 seconds or so. And but look, when we come back, look, the phone number is going to be scrolling. So if you have some questions for Lo, for Emily, or for Queen Bee, please, y'all don't be shy. Give a call. They're not going to bite. Well, Emily did once, but that's because she don't like she don't like bikers. She made that very clear. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so let's take a break. And you guys, look, if you have questions, call in. There's great questions on the chat, but y'all call in, ask.
I decided to pursue a career in law because it gives me an opportunity to help people. When a client chooses us to represent them, they're entrusting us with a huge responsibility. It's our goal to exceed their expectations with our personalized service and to help them to achieve the best possible recovery to compensate them for their injuries.
That's where we come in. We come in and we solve that problem for them and really set them on the right track in order to try and get back to what their life was like before the accident happened.
See, that wasn't even all that long. And we just broke out for a minute, but yeah, so the phone number is scrolling at the bottom. So if y'all have any questions, definitely, please, we don't always have this opportunity to talk to these ladies or the ladies like this, but y'all feel free to call in. I'm sure they'd love to talk to you. But in the meantime, though. But yeah, this is some really good subjects, and I think what we've got to do, if we would like to recap a little bit, we've talked about human trafficking, but there's more than one type. I think that's one of the things that we hit on last week. We're hitting on a little bit tonight. Sometimes it's work trafficking, or labor trafficking, when they force somebody to go to work at a place, like that chicken factory, or I've heard about, this is a thing, logging camps. I didn't even know we had logging camps anymore, but apparently people are cutting down trees, making stuff out of wood, and there's folks working out there who it ain't their idea to be there. These are men, grown men that are doing this. And then, of course, there's the sex trafficking. That is a thing. A lot of times, and like I think Queen Bee, you mentioned you saw the movie Traffic. So for the longest time in my head, I thought that sex trafficking, well, that was really a European, like she said, like Lo said, Eastern Bloc. That's what used to be my idea about that. But now I'm hearing marginalized communities like the Native American community. They've been suffering from this for decades. And the thing that I learned is a lot of times, a lot of these reservations, they don't have the resources to go outside of the reservation. They don't have for whatever reason, they're grabbing up these Native girls and they're disappearing. And they're never to be heard from again. It's heartbreaking. But we also have it, again, in marginalized communities. It's not just the Black folks and the brown folks. It clearly happens to white folks too, but no matter where it's coming from, we've all got to double down. We have to dedicate ourselves, or for some of us, rededicate ourselves. I made a whole big run in my mouth about this last week. But if you're on them two wheels, getting around the summit, everywhere that we get to, man, you're going to see some stuff. Now we just have to know what we're looking at. And if we do, we talked about there's some tattoos. Guess what? If you ain't sure about it, ask about it. Look into it. Don't be shy. How many bikers is just all shy, sitting in the corner, like acting like
Right.
like none, right? We're bikers, right? So
Right.
this ain't like this is oh my gosh, I better not say nothing. Come on now, stop it. That ain't who we are. So,
like, are there different type of tattoos that you should be looking for? I mean, I know we had the one with the barcode. Is there like a particular? I know they say that you can look at the tattoo and it tells you like who owns the person or whatever. So is there like a particular type of tattoo that somebody, like, if they seen it, they would know, this is what it is?
Well, let me say this. I'm not going to say that maybe you would know, but I would know, because I've encountered so many that have been victimized due to trafficking. So I see the tattoos, and they're different symbols. Different pimps have different symbols, but somebody say something?
No, go ahead.
But different pimps have different symbols. So it's not like, and to be honest, I've been doing this for a long, long time, probably since 2004, and I've never seen a barcode on anyone. But
Gotcha.
Now, other tattoos I have seen, okay? They're different tattoos. And, and sometimes y'all, I skate around saying different things because along with people that want to learn about trafficking, you have traffickers that watch these shows also to learn and see what we know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But offline, I could, try and, maybe send you something, let you see what I'm talking about.
Right on. I'll tell you what because I heard a lot of feedback about the barcode thing. And what I learned is that pimps and gangs do very different things, which I didn't know a week ago. I didn't know that. In the United States, it's the pimps that they do like their name, or like they might have a little name for their little group of girls, or what, their stable like that. They'll have that thing. And usually that's the name. They love to do the neck and some stuff like that, or like the location, tattoo them on the neck and some other places.
Yeah,
the breast and the neck. And it's usually their name, or the name of what he's calling all of his little organization, or what he's calling his girls. Well, these trafficking gangs, that's where that whole barcode thing comes in. But I found out that's less of an American thing, which I didn't know that, but I think that's a part of the whole thing, is learning what we can learn, sharing the information as quickly as we can get it and as accurately as we can do it to let folks know. So I'm glad that you brought that up, though, because that was the thing that was bouncing around in my head.
I didn't know either, y'all.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. I was taught. Like I
Yeah.
say, the young ladies, they taught me. They taught me, and I think that was the best way for me to learn, because I used to like watch movies and read up on trafficking, but it was nothing compared to actually seeing it face to face. When I tell you, it really just it will. You cannot deal with a person that has been victimized due to trafficking and not just feel their pain.
Right.
Because if you deal with a person like that and you don't have any remorse or anything, you're just as worse as that trafficker out there.
Gotcha.
Because I've been doing this a long time, guys. And when I tell you, I have encountered so many, and each one of them, I'm a mother. You know,
Yeah.
it hurts. It hurts me here to know
Mhm.
that people are so evil, and sometimes they're family members. You
Mhm.
know, and another thing I wanted to mention to you all that people don't talk about is sextortion.
Okay.
Yes. Let me tell you about that. A lot of these people are doing this. That's why I was trying to warn you all about Roblox. They're, grooming these children, and they're sending them pictures. They'll probably tell them to send them a picture with their underwear on,
Right.
and then they'll tell them, hey, listen, if you don't send me a picture with your bra off, then guess what? I'm going to post your picture all over social media. And so guess what those children are
Wow.
going to do? Because they know they weren't supposed to send that picture in the first place. So they're going to feel uncomfortable by telling mom or dad.
Right.
Most of them. Now, it depends on your relationship with your child. So I would suggest, if you have children and they're on using these devices and on these games and these little group chats that they have in school, I need you to basically let your child know you love them. I'm not saying buy them everything, and that's good, you're buying them everything. But your child has to know that you really love them,
Right.
because sometimes they get to the point where they feel lonely, and that's why they reach out to other people, guys, and just for that bond, and that's where it's coming from. And we look at a lot of people that are like Emily said, in the poverty-stricken areas, that
Yeah.
are being basically hit like this. But you got to understand too, the sheltered children, the children that get everything,
Yeah.
they're so naive, and they're just as at risk as those people in the poverty-stricken areas. I'm going to tell you that, and I've seen that. But that sextortion, guys, that's at an all-time high. That's what they're doing in these schools now, getting pictures. And I couldn't tell you the last 2 weeks the calls I've gotten
Yeah.
about sending nudes to
Okay.
these children, but these are
Yeah.
adults.
That's the thing. I mean, I think what happens is, and you don't. This is some stuff that most of us wouldn't even realize, that chain of occurrences, to where that gets a kid out of the house because they're pressured about something that they did that they wasn't supposed to do, and
Yes,
their innocence is wrecked at that point.
yes.
Quick question. Shada from AC asked a question. Low, having children myself, what is something we can do to help prevent it from ever happening to them?
Talk about it.
Mhm.
Because a person think that just
Mhm.
because it's not happening to them, that we're not going to talk about it. That's like just like HIV, guys. A lot of people don't talk about HIV because they think if they don't talk about it, it's not happening. But I can tell you that you need to talk about trafficking, like you get up, like you read the Bible in the morning. Well, I didn't say that because everybody probably don't read the Bible in the morning, but just like you eat, okay, you need to talk about
Man.
trafficking with your children, because if you don't teach them, somebody else is going to lure them and teach them the wrong things.
You know, what's
Absolutely.
funny? I talked to, in fact, me and Bishop did a show called BLP, Biker Lifestyle Podcast, and we were talking about a few things, but basically, black bikers on the set and the history of it and all like that. And we talked about the Green Book, a whole other subject, how black folks used to have to travel, and they had a green book it was called a Green Book, and it would tell you where was safe to stay, where wasn't stay safe, and basically to help you traverse the world back then if you was black trying to get from point A to point B. One of the things that came up wasn't so much that, but we also got into the subject of what we used to call, in my family, the talk. Most black folks, I thought the talk was when your parents talk to you about your first interaction with the police. Not that there wasn't ever going to be one, but when it happened, here's how you got down with the police to keep from getting dead. And at my age, I'm talking about back in the 70s when when the talk was had. I was shocked to find out that, my white friends, the talk to them was about sex. the talk with us was about dealing with the cops. I didn't know that, but there was conversations being had about what we deemed as important. Having said that, I don't give a damn whether you're black, white, or plaid. This is an important conversation that all parents need to be having with their children. And
Yes.
of course, if you're one of these parents who are getting ready to do this to your kids, then fuck you. Go play in traffic. Go die somewhere. I mean that in a good way, good way. But for real, people need to know about this because it might be somebody else's kid. It might be somebody's parent that's doing this to them. Which again, I'm learning this right now as y'all are telling me. I've heard it 4 or 5 times tonight from Archbishop to you, Queen. Matter of fact, I've heard it from everybody on this panel that's a thing, and it's troubling. It's terrifying.
It's
So,
sick.
Yeah, I think you got to be able to. You got to be able to have that open line of communication with your children, but but also with the.
I'm sorry, Archbishop. Sorry.
Hey, hang on one second, caller. Go ahead, Archbishop.
No, I was saying, like what Queen B was saying, the open line of communication with your children is a must. You know what I mean, and let them know that they can talk to you about anything without being judged. That's the biggest thing. Because if they're able to come to you and talk to you about pretty much anything without being ridiculed and judged, which makes them more open to tell you about stuff. Another thing is the kids that come to your house to see your son and daughter, they gotta be. You make them feel comfortable as well, because it may be something going on at their house that they can't talk to, but they can come to you. You know, and that's happened before too. You know what I mean? So communication is key to a lot of this.
Right. Well, give us a second. Let's see who's giving us a call right now.
What happened?
Oh, hey, thank you for calling the Big Bone Yard. You got a Big Bone 1%, Archbishop 1%, and a whole bunch of other folks who are joining us tonight.
I didn't see anything.
Lo Smith and Emily, who's on the line with us right now.
I didn't know what was open.
Hey, what's going on, Big Bone Radio Check? You know who this is, Walker the Night Stalker.
Man, that's Walker, the motherfucking Night Stalker. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Listen, I'm happy that you really are addressing this issue, and you got the sisters on the line.
Quite good.
Our community, man. Listen, we got a lot of things going on, and the most important thing that I can say, my input into this conversation, is we are the shit filters. We have to be the shit filters in our community, and I can't say it any other plainer than that. We have to take back our community. That we are under constant attack by everything. I'm the father of 5 boys, brother.
Yep.
So I've been running it like a unit, and I inspect what I expect.
Hoorah!
Let's not act as parents because we got to a point of affluence and we want to give our children everything. But the best thing that we can give our young people, not only our children because they're all our children, but our young people, is our presence, our transparency, our example. And like you have the sister there that's a part of that law enforcement, just think of the things that she can't say to us. She can't tell us. There's things that they don't want us to know because it would frighten us, bro. Americans are soft right now.
Yeah.
And our young people have the answers. All we got to do is tap into that energy, and they will give us the blueprint. We have the knowledge. They have the knowledge of this world. We have the wisdom, and together we put them 2 things together. We can come to an understanding.
Yeah.
I'm your parent. I'm the older person. I have the gray hair. You do what I tell you to do. And once we get that, we set that parameter, bro. We can take back our communities and protect our children and our communities because it starts with them, bro. I'm telling you, what kind of work that I do? I work with children. I've been, just for the audience, I work with children that have been affected by incarceration. The organization is called Children of Promise. We have 2 sites in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. And it's weird that you're talking about this subject because in the Bronx site, we have had an influx of Honduran immigrants and South and Central American immigrants in New York. And these are Black people, bro. And to hear some of the stories that I'm hearing about, mothers finding themselves in situations where they belong to a part of a organization or a gang, and they have to do certain things, and their children become pawns in this thing. Like the children of this woman, that she's my woman, that I'm pimping them out. And I'm talking about the boys, the girls, and this is a South American and a Central American problem. I can't even tell you or go. We don't have the time to go into what's really affecting our community. But bro, it's a serious thing, and we have to take. I'm glad y'all addressing it. The easiest thing, like the brother asked a question, we got to be involved. And if you get into a situation, find your local biker. Walk up to a biker. If you see him, he got on his colors, he got on his patches, and tell them that something's going on, and they're gonna take care of you. That's
Facts.
all I got. Y'all keep doing what you're doing, Bone. You know what it is,
Man. Hey, man, simplify, brother. I appreciate you big time. Yeah. So just to share this, that was doggone Cecil, aka Jalen Walker, Night Stalker, and this dude. Look, when I tell you, he talks like he walks it, and we used to say that back in the day. He was with a unit in the Marine Corps called Fast Company, and I won't go all up into it, but that motherfucker caused more funerals than COVID, and came back home to embrace children. I mean, real talk. I get emotional about it because he did his thing. He did his thing for this country, and then he came back and he's still doing his thing for this country. So that's a dude that speaks with a huge amount of credibility, and it touches my heart that he took time out of his life to reach out to us, to share, what he's doing and his thoughts on that thing. But, but going back to it though, I think the big thing, we've got some great questions coming in, and but I just really think if actually Queen Bee, if you could kind of give us a how to avoid it and what to do when it happens, and then we'll get with Emily and figure out what looks on the other end of it. But and I know we've said it a time or two, but what sort of stuff? I mean, and you told us some stuff, but let me be specific. Let me try to let me be specific. You're at a carnival, which I recently learned is a thing. You're at a carnival. How do you know that the guy operating the ride versus the woman selling you cotton candy? If you see, what are you going to see there that might tell you, hey, they might be in trouble?
Well, I mean, that's hard because you're at a carnival and you really don't know unless somebody tells you. If a person tells you, a child tells you that this person is telling me to come to their camper, they're giving me candy. They're telling me to come behind the building. I mean, you really can't pinpoint anything at a carnival, at any big type of event like that, unless someone tips you off or say something.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Emily? Because
I'll tell you, the reason I mentioned the carnival is because I found out through, again, just looking into some of this and from hearing from a lot of people, I was told that a lot of people at carnivals, at freaking standby, I was told that a lot of people that are in carnivals are trafficked. And I'm like, how does that even make sense? And they told me that the people that are working there have been grabbed up in some town, because carnivals move from town to town. They'll grab somebody in one town, and guess what? They're working for the carnival now, not making any money, and they're forcing them to stay there. And God forbid they say anything to anybody. I'm thinking that's the craziest shit I ever could think of. That makes no sense to me. But I'm sorry, as you were saying,
Emily.
Not to stereotype a carnival worker, but I am going to a little bit, because from my observation, what I have seen at carnivals in my area and surrounding areas, most of them tend to look like they're using drugs. And like I said, I don't want to stereotype them, but if they're being held hostage but they develop this relationship, some kind of Stockholm's or domestic violence type situation, they're being enslaved by something. You can believe that to make them want to stay. They are enslaved by something that is benefiting them, or some type of fear has been put in them.
Right.
Yeah. But one other quick thing I want to say while we're talking about events and things like that, the Super Bowl is coming up. Yeah. And I don't care where they hold it. That's one of the largest times for trafficking ever. The Super Bowl. Because you have people coming in from out of town.
Everywhere.
And you have these pimps that are going to travel to that area, these pimps that are going to be in that area already, and everybody's there. Everybody's looking for a good time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Any large event.
sporting
Okay.
event, anything,
Yes.
concerts.
Okay.
Excuse me, let me say this. The church
Yeah.
conventions,
Ooh, that's a
What?
good one.
For real? For real?
What? Church convention?
let me tell you
You
something.
serious?
When I speak and when I tell you something, it's from something I've seen. Okay, church
Yeah.
conventions,
Mm.
trafficking at the church conventions.
I would not have guessed that. I'm not even kidding you. I mean, I've been learning a lot. I'm telling you.
If I
Wow.
tell you
That
that
was
something,
just.
I've never would have thought that.
if I tell
Yeah.
you something,
Wouldn't have thought
that
it.
when I tell you that I can tell you every profession that there's somebody dealing with trafficking in there. Let me say that.
I'll
Okay.
say this: the Republican National Convention happened in Tampa a number of years ago, and I knew a bunch of girls who were dancers, and I knew a guy who owned an escort service, and every single one. Now, this is on the more legit side. You know, there was no. I'm not talking about a trafficking situation. The strip clubs was jam packed full for the entire time because before the Super Bowl they have the media week before that.
Yeah.
So this is like a big thing. Every strip club and the Tampa Bay area is known for the strip clubs. All the strip clubs were jam packed, couldn't get in. The parking lots are full and the whole thing. And all of the escorts, they're working nonstop, and everybody after the thing, everybody's out buying new cars and stuff like that. And I was thinking, oh, well, that's from the legal standpoint. Oh, strippers, escorts. Oh, okay, that's that. But if that's the case, then like Emily just said, chances are the pimps probably came here in droves, made an insane amount of money.
Oh yes.
Why wouldn't they go to the next Super Bowl if they made that kind of money?
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense. Like Dagon Walker just said, sex sells. Just think of the different levels
Yeah.
of this sickness. Gizzle's list was never released. So that's real talk. That's real
That's
talk
real
right there.
talk.
But I got to take a minute to say, I know me and Archbishop, we talked about this a lot. We are so just insanely grateful to both of y'all for coming on here and taking time to share what you had to share with us. And and this I want to be clear. Tone, if you're still there, Tone said, don't let this become a trend like on TikTok that's there for 2 weeks and then we never talk about it again. So our dedication, we're going to give you some commitment to this is not going to be a trend with us. We'll talk about this again. As Lord knows, as we have the opportunity to hear from some folks, we're going to put out information out there as we get it in. We'll be revisiting this subject, but I definitely want to say thank you to both of y'all for taking time to come and join us. For those of us, for us bikers out there, and even the folks that's watching us not bikers, I think everybody learned some stuff. God willing, we're going to put this into practice so that we can, if it comes up, we might be able to help somebody because this now is thousands of folks that wasn't necessarily paying attention to this, a week ago. So, but thank both of y'all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
But did you want to give us any parting words of wisdom?
Well, like I was saying earlier, the only thing I would say is just take time out to just go in, just hug your children like right now, seriously, because I deal with so many youth on a daily basis. Just go and hug them and just let them know you love them, and take time up with them. Don't just stick them in that room, and then talk to them. Don't just sugarcoat anything to your children about what's out here in these streets. You need to let them know before the streets take control of your child. And once they get your child's mind, there's nothing you can do. They will turn on you like you never fed them. So that's the only thing I'm telling you. Just talk about it. Look, we have platforms, all of us on social media. Start posting about trafficking, guys. We post, you see enough garbage on social media. Start doing positive. I use my platforms for positive. And that's what I do on a daily basis is educate people on what human trafficking is and some of the different things that we've seen. And I can't say everything that I've seen because when there's an open case, you really can't talk about it. So, I will post some things like missing people. Y'all share that stuff. When you see something we post about somebody missing, share it, please, because it could be your family the next time. God forbid. Okay.
Right. Oh, by the way, Queen Bee, Miss Wiggles said to give you her number. She works in the same field as you. She wants to connect with you, so we'll talk later. I'll make sure you got her contact info.
Okay.
And now, even though we all understand that Emily hates motorcycles and hates bikers, and didn't want to be, you know what they said? Archbishop told me that you especially said. I think that's what he's.
I ain't said nothing. I ain't said nothing. I ain't said nothing.
I might have fibbed again. Man, damn.
Yeah, you ain't about to get me involved in that part.
I'm supposed to stop lying in 2023.
I'm neutral. I get along with everybody.
All right. I'm gonna start telling the truth and stuff again. It's 2023. I got to double down on the truth stuff. But Emily,
I told you about that.
I'm trying to do better. But yo, Emily, if you got any parting words for us, we'd love to hear them.
Just that knowledge is power. Keep shedding the light. Keep talking about it. And and when I say knowledge is power, it's not just about what you see on TV. It's not even the ladies that are with pimps and what might seem consensual. It's usually not. And I saw somebody said a comment earlier. What about the bottom bitch? I saw that too. But just
the bottom bitch was victimized also.
Right. Mm-hmm. And she's pretty much paid some of her dues, and now she's doing the same pimp game. But it's just an insanity cycle.
Yes.
But yeah, just keep shedding the light. Keep talking about it.
Gotcha. Right on. Well, we definitely appreciate it. And to both of y'all, again, I can't do that enough. I'm gonna wear this applause button out tonight because we just really appreciate y'all, like in a great fashion. And in another week we're gonna be doing this thing again. Archbishop, what say you, sir, on the subject of this stuff that Emily said? Because I don't know if Emily be telling the truth, but what do you say?
No, actually, I appreciate both of them being on here. Emily, it takes a lot of guts to get on here and say what you said and to tell your story. So I greatly appreciate you doing that. And Queen B, keep up with the good work. What you're doing out there is, like I said, hit us up and let us know. Posters or whatever. We'll post it on the show. We'll post it on social media or whatever.
Thank you.
I think the biggest thing that we have to do as adults and as parents is to, like I said, have an open communication with your children now. With this day and age, with us dealing with, mostly kids come in, they just want to play video games. They don't want to go outside. They're just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Like, I know they're in the room playing the games. Okay, but what are they actually doing? Right. Start monitoring what it is that they're doing. Check their cell phones. Check these apps and these sites that they're going on, and see who it is that they're talking to. Of course, your child ain't gonna like it, but you keeping them safe on the back end, and by having that communication with your child, that they can come to you and talk about any given situation as to what's going on. That's what's going to change the dynamic, to be able to, where these kids feel safe and they know that they can go to your mom or go to dad, and they're gonna protect me, because that's what we're here for. We're here to protect you. And because the last thing that you want is for your son or your daughter to go through any of this and disappear, and you trying to find them and going through all the stuff. And a lot of this stuff here, I feel that could have been fixed if people would actually listen to what these kids are saying to them. Don't just push them to the wayside. Listen to what they're saying, because there's some truth in that. You know what I mean? And if they coming to you telling you this, then they feel comfortable talking to you, and you should do your due diligence to get the answers and to find out what this child is talking about. So I appreciate y'all being on here once again. Like I said, we're not gonna, even though this is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, I mean, this is something that's going to be talked about all the time. And we, and there's stuff going on that you want us to know, let us know. And even if we doing a show on whatever, we'll stop and say something about it as well. So because this is something that people need to be more aware of. It needs to be out here. And being that we have the platform to do that, we more than happy to do it. So I appreciate everybody that was watching tonight. Tune in next week. We're going to have something else even more. And till then, peace out.
Hey, what he said. Hey, look, y'all. seriously, thank y'all so much for being here with us. And I couldn't say it better than Archbishop just did. In the meantime, we're gonna be doing this again in about about 7 days. We're gonna do this thing again. And look, y'all hang around for a few. We'll probably jump over to the Facebook group in a second, but we're gonna go ahead and carry us out. You guys hang on there just for a second.
Okay.
In the meantime, hey, thank y'all for joining the Big Bone Yard again. We're gonna see y'all in like 7 days.
Welcome to the Big Bone Yard. Enter at your own risk.
I decided to pursue a career in law because it gives me an opportunity to help people. When a client chooses us to represent them, they're entrusting us with a huge responsibility. It's our goal to exceed their expectations with our personalized service and to help them to achieve the best possible recovery to compensate them for their injuries.
That's where we come in. We come in and we solve that problem for them and really set them on the right track in order to try and get back to what their life was like before the accident happened.